BBC News.
Well, let's go straight to our royal correspondent, Peter Hunt. Peter, is the palace convinced that its tactic was right in issuing this public denial?
Well, it's certainly a different tactic. Often in the past, palace officials have hidden beneath their parapets, behind their thick palace walls, and maintained what they would have viewed as a dignified silence. They haven't done it in this case, and I think that's an indication of how potentially damaging they viewed these rumours. What they've done instead, they would say, is to try and get in the driving seat, not be influenced all the time by what the papers might choose to print, and to get it out there very publicly and very strongly, their belief that this incident, alleged incident, didn't take place, and it is false.
And how much concern is there, Peter, that more damaging allegations might be published over the weekend?
Well, I think there is a concern and a growing realisation, fear, if you like, that it is likely. There is the potential that this allegation in one form or another will emerge. Finally, we live in a 24-hour news world. There's the internet chat rooms, media across the world. Already an Italian newspaper has mentioned it. But I think the hope of the palace officials would be that if that happens, then they have launched a preemptive strike. They put it out there that they believe it's false, and they hope that it will discredit or devalue the currency of whatever could possibly be said in the future.
Peter, thank you very much. In Iraq, 6 Americans have been killed after a Black Hawk helicopter was forced down near the northern city of Tikrit, Saddam Hussein's hometown. An investigation into the cause of the accident is underway. Our correspondent, darren, reports from Iraq.
Another black day for American forces, smoke rising from a downed chopper. Circling overhead, American troops survey the wreckage of a helicopter for the second time this week. One soldier scanning the horizon. This is hostile territory, homeland of Saddam Hussein, heartland of resistance. But no firm word yet on what brought the Black Hawk down.
It came down and 6 soldiers died. A full investigation is ongoing, and once we have more details on that, we'll obviously give that to you.
Are there any indications now about whether or not this was hostile fire?
As I said, there's an investigation ongoing. It would be wrong to speculate on any form.
Further north, in the city of Mosul, more American casualties, and no doubt here that there was hostile fire. This, the smouldering aftermath of an ambush with rocket-propelled grenades, the first of 2 deadly attacks. Across Iraq, American soldiers are trapped in a war of attrition and being faced with new threats. For American troops, this is another day of losses, another day of counting the dead. They're under attack more and more now, up to 35 incidents a day. For all of this hardware, America is still struggling with an enemy that is hard to name, hard to find, and hard to fight. An enemy that is striking coalition forces with growing confidence and growing success. Olivier and BBC News, Baghdad.
Professional women are 50% more likely to die from breast cancer than those from lower social classes. Researchers say the divide is caused by career women having fewer children and starting their families later in life. Police in Cornwall are investigating a double murder after bodies of a husband and a wife were found shot dead at the garage they ran near Wadebridge. Post-mortem examinations are being carried out today on the bodies of Carol and Graham Fisher. The British sprinter, Dwayne Chambers, will find out shortly whether a second sample has tested positive for the illegal steroid THG. Unconfirmed reports have suggested that the backup sample, like the first, has been found to contain the banned substance.
5 weeks ago, Dwayne Chambers was told that he'd failed a test for tetrahydrogesterone. In the next few hours, he's expected to hear that his B sample has produced the same positive reading for the designer steroid. He'd be automatically suspended pending a disciplinary hearing, and that is likely to ban him for at least 2 years. Mark Richardson was banned 4 years ago after he tested positive for another steroid, nandrolone. Though his punishment was eventually overturned, he knows what Chambers is likely to encounter.
When I was faced with similar kind of legal processes, I tried to detach myself away from the whole situation, because you're actually helpless. There's not very much you can do. There's only certain things that you have control of. So I did my best to detach myself from the whole process.
Chambers' lawyer has already stated that the sprinter unwittingly took the drug in the form of nutritional supplements that he thought were legal. But that is no defence, given that every athlete is solely responsible for any substance found in their body. For the thousands of athletes who are just starting winter training, the news that the country's star sprinters embroiled in a drug scandal is still the main topic of conversation.
people do look up to him, and you know, people look to him, not necessarily whether there are any sort of training secrets to be gained, but you know, he is the British #1 just as much as Linford Christie has been in the past. And if you go back when he had middle distance running in the headlines, the Coes and Ovets of this world, rewinding the tape some years, people look up to these people.
Sprinters are the most precious of athletes. Until now, the European champion measured his career by hundredths of a second, but he could be left counting the weeks and months in a 2-year ban away from the sport. Ollie Foster, BBC News.
It's coming up to 1:15. Our top story this lunchtime. The jury in the Soham trial has been told how Holly and Jessica's bodies were discovered. Coming up, how cannabis can ease the pain for sufferers of MS. And 30 years of food, how the contents of our shopping trolleys have changed.
And on the programme this lunchtime, Jurassic Park comes to allotments in Hull. Yes, the dinosaur that's causing a stir among the sprouts. And back in the big time, the build-up to Bradford Park Avenue's first FA Cup first-round date in 33 years. That's Look North in 15 minutes.
There are claims today that companies carrying out roadworks may be deliberately exaggerating the length of time they're predicted to take in order to avoid fines for overrunning. Researchers found that in some cases, firms were overestimating by 50%. Fines for missing deadlines can cost thousands of pounds. Peter Lane's in Birmingham.
There are more than 1 million sets of roadworks like this up and down the country every year, where gas, water and electricity companies have to get beneath the tarmac. Well, today those companies are under the spotlight.
The government-commissioned report doesn't name names, but suggests that some may be manipulating their figures to avoid fines.
Roadworks are costing the country an extra £2 billion in congestion costs, and much of it is due to lack of coordination of roadworks and the fact that the utility companies are exaggerating the time that roadworks take to avoid getting fined. So it's a complete mess and it needs to be tightened up.
This gas pipe work is being carried out for Transco. They insist they've never adjusted their estimates, and all the utility companies say they strive to minimise disruption.
You have to remember that utilities works are only done for essential reasons, to provide people with new services, to maintain those services in good working order.
But a separate report by the Transport Research Laboratory claims previous efforts to improve matters have failed. Here in Birmingham, though, they've been praised for using the highways equivalent of keyhole surgery.
What we're doing here is to open just very small holes at the corners of the junctions and then to push the pipe through underneath the carriageway while all the traffic is still actually running.
There are calls for more use of this method and for schemes to charge the utilities for every day of roadwork they do.
The government knows there's room for improvement. They wouldn't go into detail, but a spokesman told me today that they are working on new legislation to make life easier for everyone when the utility companies have to dig up the roads. Peter Lane, BBC News, Birmingham.
Taking cannabis may make patients with multiple sclerosis feel better, but new research shows there's little evidence that the drug makes any physical difference. 600 patients took part in a trial to test the impact of the drug. Karen Allen reports.
For Leslie Friends, simply walking is a struggle. She's had multiple sclerosis for 20 years and was one of the patients given cannabis extract in this landmark trial. Like many others, she says it